Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Divine, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's pay homage to the Blessed One, Supremely Enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's pay homage to our teacher, Luk Swami Mahansi. Sadhu, sadhu. Let's go to today's sutta. I have selected this beautiful sutta to discuss with you with Sīha from the numerical discourses of the Buddha. So let's learn about this sutta. Who is going to read first?
At one time, the Buddha was staying near Vesali, at the great wood in the hall with the peak roof. Now at that time, several very prominent Lichavi were sitting together at the meeting hall, praising the Buddha, his teaching, and the Sangha in many ways. Now at that time, General Sīha, a disciple of the Jains, was sitting in that assembly. He thought that Blessed One must be without a doubt be a perfected one, a fully awakened Buddha. For several very prominent Lichavis are praising the Buddha, his teaching, and the Sangha in many ways. Why don't I go see that Blessed One, the perfected one, the fully awakened Buddha?
So, okay. Remember this Vesali, that the people who lived in that province at the time was known as Lichavis. It is said that that they got that name because they were extremely beautiful. Those people were extremely beautiful, like gods and goddesses came from heaven. So they lived in one part of India. Maybe you can still see some of those. I don't know which part. So yes, so Buddha was living at that area in the province of Vesali, and the Lichavis were the people who lived in that province. And Jains, the Jains, Nigantanatha Buddha's religion, his disciples were known as Jains, and you can still see that religion in India. Is it Jainism? Yeah. So this Sīha, the main character of this sutta, the general Sīha, he was a general, and he was first a disciple of Nigantanatha Buddha, and he was following a totally different doctrine, and the Nigantanatha Buddha was against the Buddha. He didn't like the Buddha. He wanted to see the destruction of Buddhism. So he was completely against Buddhism. So Sīha was a student of Nigantanatha Buddha. He was a lay disciple of Niganta religion. And so since he was a general, he had lots of devotees with Lichavis, and there was this assembly hall. He was sitting with those Lichavis, the ministers, the prominent Lichavis means the ministers, counselors, and all these high-ranking people. And they were praising the Buddha, his teaching, and the Sangha. So there were many disciples of the Buddha, the Lichavis. Many Lichavis were the disciples of the Buddha, followers of the Buddha. So General Sīha got to learn about the Buddha from them. So he also wanted to go to see the Buddha. He never seen the Buddha before. So but all the other friends who were sitting with him, like the government people, they already have seen the Buddha and praising the Buddha, so he also wanted to go see and see the Buddha and listen to the teachings. Did he go directly? No. He wanted permission.
Then General Sīha went to Niganthanatha and said to him, "Sir, I would like to go see the ascetic Gautama. But Sīha, you believe in the doctrine of action. Why should you go to see the ascetic Gautama, who teaches a doctrine of inaction? For the ascetic Gautama believes in a doctrine of inaction. He teaches inaction, and he guides his disciples in that way." Then Sīha's determination to go and see the Buddha died down. For a second time, several prominent lecturers were sitting together at the meeting hall, praising the Buddha in his teaching and the Sangha in many ways. And for a second time, Sīha thought, why don't I go to see that blessed one, the perfected one, the fully awakened Buddha? Then General Sīha went to Niganthanatha. Then for a second time, Sīha's determination to go and see the Buddha dies down. For a third time, several prominent lecturers were sitting together at the meeting hall, praising the Buddha, his teaching, and the Sangha in many ways. And for a third time, Sīha thought that blessed one must, without a doubt, be a perfected one, a fully awakened Buddha. For several very prominent lecturers are praising the Buddha, his teaching, and the Sangha in many ways. What can these Jains do to me, whether I consult with them or not? Why don't I, without consulting them, go to see that blessed one, the perfected one, the fully awakened Buddha?
Sadhu, sadhu, we rejoice in your hearing. So did you see what happened? Yeah, so the Niganthanatha Buddha didn't want his very famous disciple to go to see the Buddha, because he knew because many of his disciples later joined the Buddha's path. They realized they were following wrong ways. That was a wrong path for liberation, and so Buddha was preaching the beautiful path, amazing path, the only path leading to the end of suffering, liberation, Nibbana. So many of his disciples later joined the Buddha and became the followers of the Buddha. So he knew that. So he didn't want his followers to go and meet the Buddha and learn the truth of life. He didn't have that compassion to give his students the opportunity to meet an enlightened one who appeared in this world after a long time, and to learn those teachings leading to the end of suffering. He didn't want his students to achieve the ending of suffering like that. Finally, General Sīha decided to go by himself. He didn't need the permission. That's how he thought. You see the students of Niganthas, even today in India, you see some naked ascetics following the Niganthas, the Niganthanatha Buddha's doctrine. Thousands and thousands of disciples.
Then Sīha, with around 500 chariots, set out from Vesali in the middle of the day to see the Buddha. He went by carriage as far as the terrain allowed, then descended and went by foot. Then General Sīha went up to the Buddha, bowed and sat down to one side, and said to him, "Sir, I have heard this. The ascetic Gautama believes in a doctrine of inaction. He teaches inaction, and he guides his disciples in that way. I trust those who say this repeat what the Buddha has said. Do not misrepresent him with an untruth. Is their explanation in line with the teaching? Are there any legitimate grounds for rebuke and criticism? But we don't want to misrepresent the Blessed One. There is, Sīha, a sense in which you could rightly say that I believe in inaction, I teach inaction, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could rightly say that I believe in action, I teach action, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could rightly say that I believe in annihilationism, I teach annihilation, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there's a sense in which you could rightly say that I'm disgusted, I teach disgust, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could rightly say that I'm an exterminator, teach extermination, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could rightly say that I'm a mortifier, I teach mortification, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could rightly say that I'm an abortionist, and I teach abortion, and I guide my disciples in that way. And there is a sense in which you could say that I'm ambitious, I teach ambition, and I guide my disciples in that way. And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I believe in inaction, I teach inaction, and I guide my disciples in that way? Teach inaction regarding bad bodily, verbal, and mental conduct, the many kinds of unskillful things. In this sense, you could rightly say that I teach inaction.
Okay, so what is the meaning of inaction? Abstaining, not doing, right?
Right?
Not doing. So this not doing thing was misrepresented by the Nigantanatha Putta, and he criticized that. He gave a completely false meaning, distorted meaning for that, to say that Buddha is teaching something wrong. So you don't need to listen to his teachings. His doctrine is about inaction, and then but the meaning of that was completely like different. What Buddha meant, right? So what Buddha meant by inaction is that not doing bad bodily actions, not doing bad verbal action, and not doing bad mental action. And Buddha said, there is a way you can call me a teacher who teaches about inaction. Yes, I teach about inaction. It is about the inaction regarding bad, evil, bodily, verbal, and mental conduct. And also, I am teaching my disciples about inaction regarding many kinds of unskillful, unwholesome things. You can in that sense, not the sense your teacher taught you. In this sense, you could rightly say that I teach inaction. So he was learning. Now he is learning the truth for the first time. Now he sees the Buddha for the first time, and he is conversing with the Buddha for the first time. Now he is learning one by one. This is how he is removing his wrong views one by one.
And what's the sense in which you rightly say that I believe in action, I teach action, and I guide my disciples in that way? I teach action regarding good bodily, verbal, and mental conduct, and the many kinds of skillful things. In this sense, you could rightly say that I teach action. And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I believe in annihilationism? I teach annihilation, and I guide my disciples in that way. I teach the annihilation of greed, hate, and delusion, and many kinds of unskillful things. In this sense, you could rightly say that I teach annihilationism. In what sense in which you could rightly say I'm disgusted? I teach disgust, and I guide in that way. I'm disgusted by bad conduct, by way of body, speech, and mind, and by attainment of the many kinds of unskillful things. In this sense, you could say rightly that I'm disgusted. And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I'm an exterminator? I teach extermination, and I guide my disciples in that way. I teach the extermination of greed, hate, and delusion, and the many kinds of unskillful things. In this sense, you could rightly say that I am an exterminator.
So these terms were used by these people who held a like grudge against the Buddha and the Sangha in order to criticize, in order to insult the Buddha. These words, Buddha is teaching about annihilation, and he's a exterminator. They use these words to insult the Buddha, but Buddha said, no, you can call me annihilationism, and a teacher who teaches about annihilation and exterminate. I am an exterminator. And what is the true meaning? True meaning is that I am talking about annihilation of greed, hatred, and delusion. In that sense, you can call me, you can tell me that I teach about annihilation, right? And then I'm disgusted by unwholesome things done by body, speech, and mind. And I talk about extermination, right? So extermination, the abolishment, the termination of greed, hatred, and delusion, and all the unwholesome qualities. Otherwise, they used to say that, they use these terms to say that Buddha is talking about like inaction, that means about laziness, doing nothing, and also he destroys the development of the world. He talks about everything is impermanent, and so he doesn't like the development of the world, improvement of the world. He talks about destruction of everything like that. They were using these words, they were insulting the Buddha, but the true meaning of those words were very clearly explained here by the Buddha.
And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I'm a mortifier? I teach mortification, and I guide my disciples in that way. I say that bad conduct by way of body, speech, and mind should be mortified. I say that mortifier is someone who has given up unskillful qualities and should be mortified. They've cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, obliterated them, and that they're unable to arise in the future. The realized one is someone who has given up unskillful qualities and should be mortified. He has cut them off at the root and made them like a palm stump, obliterated them, and that they're unable to arise in the future. In this sense, you could rightly say that I am a mortifier. And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I'm an abortionist? I teach abortion, and I guide my disciples in that way. I say that an abortionist is someone who has given up future wombs and rebirth into a new state of existence. They've cut them off at the root and made them like a palm stump, obliterated them, so that they're unable to arise in the future. The realized one has given up future wombs and rebirths into a new state of existence. He has cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, obliterated them, so that they're unable to arise in the future. In this sense, you can rightly say that I am abortionist. And what's the sense in which you could rightly say that I'm ambitious? I teach ambition, and I guide my disciples in that way. I'm ambitious to offer solace, the highest solace. I teach solace, and I guide my disciples in that way. In this sense, you could rightly say that I'm ambitious. When he said this, General Sīha said to the Buddha, "Excellent, sir, excellent. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone forth for refuge for life."
These are beautiful, like these, the new meaning of these words, like about abortion. What is the meaning Buddha gives to that word? Huh? Abortionist is someone who has given up future wombs and rebirth into a new state of existence. That is the meaning of true meaning, right? So that means Buddha has aborted the future rebirth, right? Buddha has aborted the cycle of birth and death. So in that sense, Buddha can be called as an abortionist. But people who are against the Buddha use this term to insult the Buddha, saying that, oh, this recluse Gautama doesn't like happiness, entertainment, and he doesn't want beings to stay in this existence. He wants to see that, you know, the termination of everything, and he doesn't like the rebirth. So what will happen to this world if everybody is attain nibbana? So nobody will be there in this beautiful world like that. So they use these terms to insult the Buddha, but the true meaning of this is that the Buddha has aborted and given up the future births, and that's how he ended suffering, right? Now you can see how much suffering in the world because of birth. When you see suffering in the world, all these diseases spreading around the world, fighting, wars, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and all these drug problems, mental and physical suffering, then you should come to a conclusion. This is because of birth. This is because of birth. As long as we are born in this world, we cannot expect a world without these problems, without these sufferings. The only way to end this suffering in life is to follow the Noble Eightfold Path and attain Nibbana, and achieve the ending of future rebirth. That's the only solution. This is the suffering the Buddha saw with his extraordinary knowledge, with the knowledge to see past lives, with the knowledge to see death and rebirth of beings. This is the suffering seen by the Buddha. Now we see the suffering only in one life, right? We see the suffering in one life. Imagine with this extraordinary knowledge to see past lives, Buddha saw this repeatedly within incalculable lives, happening same thing to us. How many times we have faced this suffering? And Buddha asks, like, how many times we died in the middle of the battlefield? How many we were carrying weapons, we were carrying around weapons, we were killing others, we got killed. How many times? We cannot count. Buddha said, the stream of blood we have shed in this long journey of samsara is greater than the water of the great ocean. Can you imagine the knowledge of the Buddha to see the past of our lives? So we cannot say that we are safe, we are peaceful, they are the ones who are suffering. We cannot say that. We have gone through the same thing repeatedly. Because of certain good karma of us, we have some peace, at least like temporary peace. We don't know what will happen to us tomorrow, or we don't know what will happen to us in the next life. It is enough now. Buddha says it is enough to be liberated. You have suffered a lot, immensely. You have cried a lot in this long journey of samsara. We should not be fooled by this temporary peace in our life. We should not think that, this we are very fortunate, we are lucky, and this is how I am going to live. This is how I lived in the past, in my past lives. This is how I am going to live in the future, in my future lives. We should not be foolish to think like that. This is a very temporary piece in our life. Like the real picture of our life is so painful. It's so painful. We lived in very dangerous worlds, more dangerous than the human world. We spent time, eons and eons, thousands of years in a extremely dangerous world. Now we might think human world is the most dangerous world on universe. No, hell is the most dangerous world, as Buddha realized. You can read about that in the discourses, especially in the middle on discourses of the Buddha. And we lived there. We spent time. We suffered a lot in that world. And there are so many other miserable worlds where we took rebirth. Now you can compare the suffering, the pain we underwent in those worlds. You can compare with the suffering in the human world. Human world is not the most dangerous world. Now you can think about the danger in other worlds. And when we lived in the human world, we cannot say we lived a peaceful life like we are living right now. How many times we killed others in battlefield? How many times we got killed by others in battlefields? Only Buddha saw that. This is never ending journey unless we realize attain the stages of enlightenment. This is the true picture of life.
Auntie, may I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
With regards to everything you're speaking of now, I know I've had a vision where I was on a battlefield and I had someone, like I find that I get these past lives and I know I have to disassociate and detach from it because it's like that warrior on the rock and then I get stabbed. And then I always find that I see my previous lives as in how I've crossed over. And so and I'm told before COVID, I'm supposed to be this mystic Buddhist monk. And I'm not even sure what that really means as a mystic Buddhist monk before COVID, but I know that I've experienced a lot of lives where I had been more or less killed. And
No, not only your life. It's the same. It's the same for all of us. The same for all of us.
So is it disassociating and detaching? Is that what you say? Even going back to the conversation about when Buddha spoke about abortion and how to have a say in it, but also to disassociate and just be with what is, so that you're not so attached to the idea of it. And this is why so many people had their opinions of it. Is this a way to kind of look at it differently?
One thing we can understand when we reflect on our past lives, like we don't need to see it by ourselves. We don't need to have any connection or feeling, but we have confidence in the enlightenment of the Buddha that we had past lives and they were not beautiful stories. That's the conclusion for all of us about our past. It's not a beautiful past. We went through lots of pain and suffering. So but the problem is, because due to some meritorious thing done in the past by us, we have some kind of peace some kind of happiness we are experiencing right now. It's because of our previous merit, previous good karma. But we should not apply this peace to our entire journey. Buddha wanted us to see the truth. The truth is not that sweet. That's the lesson we need to learn. And that's why we need this Dhamma. That is the value of this Dhamma. Otherwise, we don't need this Dhamma if we continue our journey from life to life like this, right? We don't need this Dhamma, so we can continue. But this is not the truth. This is a very temporary happiness we are experiencing. The truth is what we see with our eyes in this world, all these diseases, problems, accidents, fighting. This is the true picture of this life. And we were living in that. We are going to live in that if we continue this journey. Rob?
Yeah, just a question about the general's previous leader, Nataputta. He was trying to promote the doctrine of action, or his doctrine of action. Just wondering about some details of what he might have considered this doctrine of action.
Yeah, details are actually found in these discourses themselves. In some discourses, Buddha would explain about his teaching as well. So, for example, there is a sutta called Upali Sutta in the Middle Length Discourses, Majjhima Nikaya, and you can learn some of the things in his doctrine. And yeah, when you keep reading these suttas, you will find discourses about his doctrine of yeah. He talked about some karma things, but incomplete things. Yeah, so when Buddha was explaining about the true meaning behind these words, which were used to as insults by the people who are against the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings, General Sīha realized. He realized the truth, and he said, "Excellent, excellent. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life." So he became a follower of the Buddha. That's why Nataputta didn't want him to come and see the Buddha. He knew that he can cheat people as long as they don't get to listen to the truth. So yeah, so that was beautiful. But the sutta is not ended there, and we will continue learning that sutta. There's another beautiful part of that sutta we can learn in future classes. So do you have any last questions?
I had a question. If someone is having a wonderful life in this lifetime, and I'm thinking directly about my parents, they were like water and milk mixed well together. They never fought, they never argued. My dad was a pure vegetarian, and my mom was very good with my dad. They understood each other, amazing marriage. I thought when you have such a beautiful marriage, I mean, they were two peas in a pod. It's very difficult to see the suffering because they kind of completed each other. But I think if you have a more difficult life, you see suffering.
No,
and
that's not the
because,
way. Then
like,
let's talk about Prince Siddhartha.
Okay.
Before he became the Buddha, right? So he didn't see any suffering in the royal palace, right? But it's not the suffering like that we need to see. It's not about seeing with our eyes. If somebody has wisdom, then they can analyze this life. They can analyze this life, and they can understand there is lots of suffering in this world. Even if somebody is in the midst of suffering, lots of suffering things, if they don't have wisdom, they will not realize. Definitely to understand, because the suffering is one of the noble truths taught by the Buddha. So definitely you have to learn the teaching of the Buddha to learn about the first noble truth, which is suffering, the second noble truth, the cause of suffering, the third noble truth, the end of suffering, the fourth noble truth, the path leading to the end of suffering. How can you learn about four noble truths without learning the teachings of the Buddha? Because Buddha appears in this world to teach about the Four Noble Truths. So we need to learn the teachings of the Buddha about the Four Noble Truths, and then we need to use our wise consideration, in Pali Yoniso Manasikara. So these two things are the key factors that gives us the picture of the true life, like picture of the truth. These two things, listening to the Dhamma and wise consideration, like analyzing the teachings and applying the teachings to our lives, reflecting on them. So that is how we understand the true picture of this life. Otherwise, if we don't have this Dhamma knowledge, we might think, oh, we have everything, we have money, we have all the luxurious things, we have food to eat, we have everything, we have good jobs, nothing to worry. Why worry, right? We will think like that. People think like that. But no, if we learn the Dhamma, we know we cannot say like that. We have a problem. We have to find answers. Again, we pay homage to the Blessed One, Supremely Enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to our teacher, Luk Swami Mahansi. Sadhu. So, if you can remember, the Sīha, the general, he heard about this praise, right? About the Buddha when he was in that assembly of Lichavis, remember? And they were highly like praising the Buddha, Buddha's qualities, Buddha's teachings, the community of Sangha. So he wanted to go and see the Buddha, but before that, he was a believer of the Jains, Nigantanath Putra, right? So he wanted to go and ask for permission. So he went, but Nigantanath Putra didn't want anybody to go and see the Buddha. But finally he managed to go and see the Buddha, and there was a beautiful conversation about this life, right? The people use those terms to insult the Buddha, but Buddha explained there is a different meaning for those terms, right? So yes, Buddha said, I teach about inaction in a way, right? I guide my disciples in that way. I teach about action also. I teach about annihilationism, right? I teach about disgust. I teach about extermination. I teach about mortification. I teach about abortion. I teach about ambition, right? And Buddha explained the true meaning of these terms. And if you understand the true meaning, you cannot use these terms to insult the Buddha. You have to use these to praise instead, right? That is, I teach the inaction regarding bad bodily, verbal, and mental conduct, and many kind of unskillful things. Yes, this is my teaching of inaction, not doing. I ask people, I teach them about the danger of doing evil things with body, speech, and mind. This is my teaching of inaction, yes. But not the meaning you are using for, right? That's what the answer of the Buddha. And then I teach about action. What is the action? I encourage people to do good things by body, speech, and mind. This is my teaching of action, doing. This is my teaching of doing, about doing. I teach the benefits of good actions. And yeah, so that means those insults are not relevant to the Buddha. That's what Buddha says. It's not the meaning you wanted to use it for. Right? And then I teach about annihilation. Annihilation. What is that? I teach the annihilation of greed, hate, and delusion. So people used to insult the Buddha, saying, this Master Gautama, he talks about annihilation, and so that means after attaining Nibbana, you are not going to be born. It's the end. It's the end of your life. So if you are not going to be reborn, what is the entertainment of this life? How can we enjoy this life? So that's how they insulted the Buddha. We don't need this teaching. If we are not going to be reborn, if we are not going to have another life, if this is the last life, oh, we don't need this teaching. Buddha said, no, the true annihilation I am teaching is about complete eradication of greed, hate, and delusion. Right? You can use that word for my teachings in this sense. And then sometimes people use the word disgust to insult the Buddha, saying, oh, he's not he doesn't enjoy this life, he doesn't entertain this life, he just reject everything. Buddha says, I am disgusted, yes, not with the happiness born from wholesome qualities. I am disgusted by bad conduct by way of body, speech, and mind. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. It's amazing wisdom of the Buddha. Yeah, people insulted the Buddha using this word of extermination, saying that, oh, he teaches this path to end this life. So people are not going to be reborn. Oh, we don't need this teaching. It's about extermination, right? So the world, what is this world without being? So this world will be empty. Those are the baseless arguments people are having. They don't know this teaching is to end suffering. They are asking help. People are looking for a solution to end suffering. When Buddha presents a solution, they say, oh, no, we don't need to end this life. We don't need to end rebirth. It's the great ignorance, delusion. Buddha teaches, I teach extermination, and I guide my disciples in that way. And what is the teaching of extermination? It is about extermination of greed, hate, and delusion. What is wrong with it? What is wrong with it? These are the root causes of suffering. No matter where you live, which language you speak, which food you eat, the root cause of your suffering, if you investigate, you will find greed, hate, and delusion. Yeah. I teach mortification and I guide my disciples in that way. I say that a mortifier is someone who has given up unskillful quality. That should be modified. They have cut them off at the root, right? Obliterated them, made them like a palm stump so that they are unable to arise in the future. The Blessed One is someone who has done that. In this sense, you could rightly say that I am a mortifier. So how does Buddha teach us about abortion? I say that an abortionist is someone who has given up future wombs and rebirth into a new state of existence. They have cut them off at the root, right? The Blessed One has given up future wombs and rebirth into a new state of existence because this was Buddha's final life, and he didn't go to another womb. He didn't go to another life. So this Buddha uses this word for a different meaning. I teach ambition and I guide my disciples in that way. I am ambitious to offer solace, the highest solace, the peace, the Nibbana. I guide my disciples in that way, right? The great relief, Nibbana. And when, like, he was listening to this, and before he heard people using all these words to insult the Buddha, but now he learned the true meaning. When he learned the true meaning, he was amazed by the true meaning of those words, and it was all like praising the Buddha. Those terms in right meaning should be used to praise the Buddha. So he started praising the Buddha now. Excellent Bhante, excellent. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. That means he realized the Blessed One is my teacher, right? This is amazing. Like, I have never met such a wise being. That's how he felt. I have never listened to such an amazing teaching about the truth of this life, about the path to end suffering. I have never heard anything like this before. So he wanted to follow the Buddha's path, and he went for refuge to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and he became a lay follower of the Buddha. That is why Nigantanath Buddha didn't want his disciples to go and see the Buddha. He knew that Buddha had this limitless compassion to help people, right? And he didn't have that compassion, so he didn't want his students go and see the Buddha. So he went for refuge to the Buddha. Now you can call him what? Noble disciple. That means a true disciple of the Buddha, right? Okay, so who is going to read? We discussed up to this, right? Going for refuge too, and now we are going to learn after that. Now, when he said to the Buddha that he wanted to be a follower of the Buddha, okay, this is what Buddha said to him. Can you read? Who can read?
Sīha, you should act after careful consideration. It's good for well-known people such as yourself to act after careful consideration. Now, I'm even more delighted and satisfied with the Buddha, since he tells me to act after careful consideration. For if the followers of other paths were to gain me as his disciple, they'd carry a banner all over the Sali, saying General Sīha has become our disciple. And yet the Buddha tells me to act after careful consideration. For a second time, I go for refuge to the Buddha, to the teaching, and to the mendicant Sangha. For this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life.
Sadhu, sadhu. So when he said he wanted to become a follower of the Buddha, what did Buddha say to him? Yeah, so you were for a long time you were a follower of Nigantanath Buddha, and now like he was very famous. Like lots of people are going to they are going to hear about this now, right? And it's a complete change in his life, and so he asked the Buddha asked him to think about it again, right? So that he said, I am even more delighted with the Buddha now, right? Because yeah, so he went for refuge to the Buddha for the second time, right? And then
For a long time now, Sīha, family has been a wellspring of support for the Jain aspects. You should consider giving to them when they come. Now I'm even more delighted and satisfied with the Buddha, since he tells me to consider giving to the Jain aspects when they come. But sir, I have heard this. As the Gautama says, gifts should only be given to me, my disciples. Only what is given to me is very fruitful, not what is given to others. Only what is given to my disciples is very fruitful, not what is given to the disciples. Yet, the Buddha encourages me to give to the Jain aspects. Well, sir, you'll know the proper time for that. For a third time, you can go for refuge to Buddha, the teaching to the delicate son. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me, they follow the Buddha. Was gone for refuge for life.
Oh, so for the third time he went for refuge to the Buddha, right? So those were the misrepresentations, right? Misinterpretations of the teaching. Like, how did they insult the Buddha, saying that, oh, he doesn't like people to help others, to give dana to others. Buddha even asked people to, like, Buddha asked people to give food to anybody. Like Buddha says, Buddha is the one who encourages giving to animals, giving to poor people, homeless people, giving to anybody. Buddha says, when you throw away the water after washing plates, when you throw away the water, if you think may the beings on earth survive on this, may this be a food for them. Even with that thought, you collect merit, let alone giving to humans. So that's how Buddha praises giving, generosity, and with the knowledge of karma and results. Yes, Buddha says, but giving to virtuous people is more fruitful than giving to unvirtuous people. It's the law of karma. It's not created by the Buddha. It's what exists in this world. And when you try to find the most virtuous people on this earth, then you find the Sangha, the members of the Sangha, the community of monks, right? So that's so they misinterpret this one, right? And saying, oh, he asked people to give always to only to his disciples. Now he realized he was sitting in front of the Buddha, and Buddha asked him to give the dana to his previous teachers as well, from who held a different doctrine, right? Jains. So he was he was shocked and about these insults made by the people who were angry with the Buddha. And yeah, he had so much faith and confidence in the Buddha, and he said, I go for refuge to the Buddha for the third time. So far, any questions?
Well, that seems to be challenging. Steve is really determined. Yeah, Steve.
Very like
change.
Honest people, very honest. He's very honest with his faith and confidence.
Yes.
And also he was like, how do you say, like open-hearted. And also he was able to give up all the wrong views he was holding for years and years. He was able to drop them quickly, right? Everybody knew him as a follower of the Jains, but it was not a problem for him. Wise consideration of into Yoniso Manasikara. Okay, now Buddha started teaching him the Dhamma for the first time, right? First time he's going to learn this deep Dhamma from the Buddha. And he had this impatience to come and listen to the words of the Buddha, but it was delayed many times. But today he got the opportunity. Now the doors are going to be opened, right, to the truth, and he's going to dive into the depths of this life and find the true causes of suffering and the path to end suffering.
Then the Buddha taught Sīha step by step with a talk on giving, ethical conduct, and heaven. He explained the drawbacks of sensual pleasures, so sordid and corrupt, and the benefit of renunciation. And when the Buddha knew that Sīha's mind was ready, pliable, rid of hindrances, elated, and confident, he explained the special teaching of the Buddhas: suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path. Just as a clean cloth rid of stains would properly absorb dye, in that very seat the stainless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma arose in General Sīha. Everything that was a beginning has an end.
Sadhu, sadhu. How fortunate he was, right? The first meeting with the Buddha, right? For the first time he's listening to these amazing teachings about the truth of life. So then, yeah, Buddha started giving his Dhamma talk, the teaching. This is called Anupubbi Katha, gradual teaching, right? Buddha would start with like easy things to understand, like especially for a beginner, right? And gradually it's advanced. The teaching is advanced. Like Buddha would explain about the generosity and how to make merit, right? And about the Sīla, right? Precepts, and then the good doers are born in heaven, right? Buddha explains all these things, and then Buddha would explain about, go into deeper aspects of the life, right? About impermanence and the drawbacks of worldly pleasures, right? And how the defilements arise because of attachment to these material things, all these like deep things, right? Deep Dhamma. And the benefit of renunciation, benefit of then how to attain Nibbana by following the Noble Eightfold Path. That's like renunciation, right? Renouncing the evil deeds, unwholesome states. Buddha would explain all these beautiful things, the deep Dhamma. And so, and when Buddha was giving this gradual teaching, Buddha would at the same time notice what is happening inside the listener. So Buddha can like scan everything, what is happening inside. And when Buddha can see that this person is like so delighted with the Dhamma now, and he's very like, his mind is tranquilized, very well focused on these teachings so far, and now Buddha knows this is the time for me to teach the essence of my teaching, essence, the core teaching of the Buddha, which is the Four Noble Truths, the rarest thing in the world.
Bhante,
yeah.
Can only a Buddha see that, or can enlightened monks that are still here with us, can they do that also, or was it just the Buddha that could do that?
If I can remember correctly, I think it's only the Buddha. Only the Buddha can see that, because Buddha has his special knowledge for that, extraordinary knowledge. So that is called Asyanusa Jnana, Indriya Paro Pariyatta Jnana, Indriya Paro Pariyatta Jnana. Buddha can see the growth of spiritual faculties, the inner faculties, how they are growing, how the faith is growing while listening to the Buddha's Dhamma talk, how the mindfulness is growing, how the concentration, the jhanas are growing while sitting there, how the mind is concentrated, how the wisdom is emerging. Buddha can see that. Special knowledge. Indriya Paro Pariyatta Jnana. Okay, Ray?
Okay, thank you, but
yeah, so then Buddha would start teaching Dukkhang, Samudayang, Nirodhang, Magga. Suffering, its cause, its end, and the path to end suffering. It's very special teaching. Like, and how his heart like grabbed this teaching, like how happy he was, the listener, this General Sīha, to to take that into his heart. This is the simile. Just as a clean white cloth, rid of stains, like very clean, and you put it in a basket of dye, what happens? Suddenly, it absorbs everything, right? The white disappears, right? In the same way, right? His heart absorbed this essence of the Buddha's teachings, like the truth, in that very seat, while sitting there in the very first meeting with the Buddha, the stainless, immaculate vision of Dhamma arose in general Sīha. What is that vision of Dhamma? Yang kenchi samudaya dhammang sabbang tang nirodha dhamma. Everything that has a beginning or arising has an end, passing away. That means he realized the dependent origination, the cause and effect mechanism. Everything in this world depends on a cause. So that thing, the effect, would only last as long as the cause lasts. That is the realization of that is one way of defining the realization of a stream enterer who has attained the first stage of enlightenment. As soon as this vision of Dhamma arises, he knows there is no permanent life whatsoever in this existence. There is no permanent life. Nothing permanent in this world. There is no everlasting place. So everything, aging and sickness and death, everything is because of birth. The birth should be ended in order to attain the freedom from aging, sickness, death, sorrow, pain, lamentation, from all the suffering. The birth should be ended. And he understands all the links of the dependent origination, because Buddha was teaching about that. The deep Dhamma means dependent origination. Suffering, its origin, its end, its path means the dependent origination, 5 aggregates of clinging, the noble eightfold path. Everything was already taught by the Buddha to him. But he was so wise to grasp the meaning of all this. So in other words, he became a stream entered. Sotapanna. 99% problem finished. Why? What is the problem? Biggest problem. He is not going to be born in hell, animal world, and ghost world after death. Right? Completely the karma that was in him for in this like long journey of samsara, whatever karma was in him that would otherwise take him to a plane of misery was completely deleted with the attainment of the first stage of enlightenment. There will be no karma, even a single karma that would take him to a plane of misery. What a great relief. What a great relief. How happy he can live after that. Now what is the problem with us? Like, how many times we think, did I do it wrong? Like, did I say I shouldn't have done that? I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have thought that. Because fear comes, right? Did I make powerful bad karma? Oh, I cannot be born in hell. I cannot be born in animal world. I cannot be born in ghost world. These kind of thoughts come, right? But see, as a general, these thoughts will never come to his mind, because he knows I am done with those karma and those works. Because Buddha teaches, after you become a stream entrant, you know about it. You don't need to go and ask other people. They know themselves. That's the biggest relief, right? Not only that, not only the escape from miserable planes, he also knows that he's going to attain the end of suffering, nibbana, for sure, within maximum of 7 lives. Maximum of 7 lives means maybe in 1 life, 2 lives, 3 lives, but it won't go beyond 7. And all those lives will be in either in human world or heavenly world. Oh, how fortunate he is.
Another question. So when Buddha explained, and then Buddha saw that his realization of impermanence, okay, with the rising and passing, and Buddha believed that he is a stream emperor. Does it also equate to his he was able to overcome the first 3 letters?
Yeah, that also happened. And yeah, simultaneously. The three fetters, the first 3 fetters, Sakkaya Ditthi, identity view, Vicikiccha, the doubt, Silabbata Paramasa, meaningless rites and rituals, all those fetters were abandoned at the same time while sitting there.
So equated immediately, the 3 of
Yeah,
them.
so the people who practice this path in past lives, they bring it with them. And when they listen to the same teaching again, that's why we always discuss, that's why we always say, like, all the material things, we will leave them behind when we go from one life to another. But this Dhamma path, the wholesome qualities, the knowledge, the wisdom we practice, we are going to take them with us till the end of our journey. The biggest investment is working towards gaining these spiritual qualities, the wholesome qualities in life. They are never going to leave us. They are going to follow us, pushing us all the way to Nibbana. That's what happens. Like when they have these previous good karma, like previously practicing the path, they quickly realize it while sitting there. Everything happened while sitting there. He abandoned like his mind did this. His mind did this while listening to the teachings. His mind abandoned all the first three fetters, right? As soon as these 3 fetters exist, a being has not escaped from falling into a plane of misery, a bad destination. So all these 3 fetters are abandoned. At the same time, the 4 factors of extreme entrant were established in him. What are they? The unshakable confidence in the Buddha's enlightenment, unshakable confidence in the Dhamma, unshakable confidence in the Sangha, and the precepts, virtue. Those 4 factors are also established simultaneously. Now he would never like take somebody's life. He would not, like deliberately he would not kill, he would not steal, he would not engage in sexual misconduct, he would not tell lies, he would not take intoxicating drinks and drugs. 5 precepts are very well established in him. Before he didn't know about these precepts and all these things. He thought the only precept, the best precept people can practice is vegetarianism. Because Nigantanatha he promotes vegetarianism and he insults the Buddha and his disciples, saying that they are not vegetarian, so you shouldn't follow their teachings because they are not vegetarian. So that's the only precept he knew. But today he realized you can be a vegetarian and still kill others. You can be a vegetarian and still steal. You can be a vegetarian and you can engage in sexual misconduct and break the families. You can be a vegetarian and still tell lies. You can be a vegetarian and drink alcohol and take drugs. Today he realized what are the true precepts. Devadatta was a vegetarian. People say Hitler was a vegetarian. Sīha realized What is the meaning of precept? So, Sīha saw, attained, understood, fathomed the Dhamma. He went beyond doubt, got rid of indecision, and became self-assured and independent of others regarding the Buddha's instructions. He didn't want to go to famous teachers, famous monks, and ask, Bhante, is my understanding correct? Am I not yet a Sotapanna? Can you please tell me? He didn't want to go to others and ask this and that. Like the powerful words, self-assured and independent of others regarding the Buddha's instructions. Right? He didn't want to go to find an arahants. I want to go to that country, this country, find arahants. I want to listen to the Dhamma only from arahants. He didn't have that problem. Right? He realized the path. Okay, this is the path I need to follow. This is what I need to contemplate on. He learned about the 4 mindfulness practice. He said to the Buddha, Bhante, may the Buddha together with the Sangha please accept tomorrow's meal from me. For the first time in his life, he is going to give a dana. Like today you gave the dana to 10 monks, 10 Bhantes. You gave to the Sangha. And those 10 Bhantes represented the entire community of monks. Like that, he wanted to give the dana. The Buddha consented in silence. Then knowing that the Buddha had consented, Sīha. So those days, the tradition, how an enlightened being would like accept the invitation is the silence. Nowadays, we have to say, yes, we are coming. Thank you for inviting. We have to say so many things. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any idea whether the monks accepted it or not. Yeah. So those days, yeah, even written confirmation.
What if Buddha said no? How can he express then?
He would say no.
He would say
Yeah, he would.
no.
Yeah, you can read that. Like some people would go to the Buddha and invite, and Buddha would say, somebody already has invited us for tomorrow's meal. So then they understand. Yeah. Knowing that the Buddha had consented, Sīha got up from his seat, bowed, and circled the Buddha, keeping him on his right before leaving. Now, he understood the truth. He knew that he was cheated by Niganta, the Jnana Buddha, the Jains. He was cheated, and for a long time, and he was so like he was kind of upset with those, that doctrine and those teachings. And why do they do this to people? Why do they fool people like this? Everybody wants to know the truth. Why do they use people for their benefit? If they don't know about precepts, if they don't know about how to end suffering, then they should not teach about it. Something that they don't know, right? So why are they cheating people like this? So he was like concerned about it. So he wanted to do something that would like feel something like. Then Sīha addressed a certain man. Mister, please find out if there is any meat ready for sale. Right? Any meat ready for sale.
Because he used to be vegetarian.
Right? Yeah, he was to be a vegetarian for years and years. And also he the Nigantas promoted vegetarianism and non-violence, saying that we are vegetarian because we are non-violent. But he realized the truth of their non-violence, and they hated the Buddha. And he publicly promoted vegetarianism and non-violence, but he had his personal experience. The Nigantas hated the Buddha. And they were talking about a food. But in their hearts, it's full of anger and hatred towards the Buddha. And he said, what kind of teaching is this? And always insulting this amazing being who appeared for the well-being of humanity. They insult the Buddha. So he wanted to show the world, this is how I found the truth. Please give up these wrong waves and misbeliefs and misunderstandings. Please go to the Buddha. Learn about the truth. Find the path to end suffering. So he wanted to give a message to the entire community. That's why he did this. So he sent this man, Mister, please find out if there is any meat ready for sale. And he knew that his precepts are very well established in him. Even for the sake of life, he would not kill any living being. And he realized eating meat nothing to do with that precept. There is no connection. So he wanted to show the truth to the world. And when the night had passed, General Sīha had a variety of delicious foods prepared in his own home. Then he had the Buddha informed of the time, saying, Bhante, it is time, the meal is ready. Then the Buddha robed up in the morning and taking his bowl and robe went to Sīha's home. When he sat on the seat spread out, together with the Sangha, now at that time many Jain ascetics in Vesali. Okay, so Buddha went to the General Sīha's house and Buddha was about to accept the meal, right? He was offering rice and curry and meat and vegetables and all these things General Sīha was about to offer. Now, at that time, many Jain ascetics in Vesali, city of Vesali, went from street to street and from square to square, calling out with raised arms. Today, General Sīha has slaughtered a fat calf for the ascetic Gautama's meal. Insulting, lying. He didn't kill. Did he kill? No, he just went to send somebody to buy, right? The ascetic Gautama knowingly eats meat prepared specially for him. This is a wrong deed he caused. So they were going on insulting, right? Street to street. Then a certain person went up to Sīha and whispered in his ear, please, sir, you should know this. Many Jain ascetics, because they are very powerful in that city, many members from that doctrine. Many Jain ascetics in Vesali are going from street to street and square to square, calling out with raised arms. Today, General Sīha has slaughtered a fat calf for the ascetic Gautama's meal. The ascetic Gautama knowingly eats meat prepared specially for him. This is a deed he caused. This is an evil deed he caused. That's what they said. See, now where is the compassion? They are talking about non-violence, compassion, vegetarianism, and insulting this most compassionate being on earth, the Buddha. They are insulting. Lots of hate in them. And then when the General Sīha heard about this, he didn't care. He said, enough, friend. For a long time, those people have wanted to discredit the Buddha, insult the Buddha, his teaching and his Sangha. They will never stop misrepresenting the Buddha with their false, hollow, lying, untruthful claims. Because he was there for a long time, he knew about them now. We would never, okay, he says, this is very important. We would never deliberately take the life of a living creature, not even for life's sake. He's a stream entrant. Very well established in 5 precepts. Then Sīha served and satisfied the mendicant Sangha headed by the Buddha with his own hands with a variety of delicious foods. When the Buddha had eaten and washed his hand and bowl, Sīha sat down to one side. Then the Buddha educated, encouraged, fired up, and inspired him with the Dhamma talk. And so Buddha taught more Dhamma to him. He was eager to learn more Dhamma from the Buddha. And now he's going to attain the once returning stage, non-returning, and around. Maybe he's already liberated. We don't know. Maybe he is in heaven. We don't know. right? Maybe before his death, he attained higher stages of enlightenment. Who knows? After which, after the Dhamma talk, the Buddha got up from his seat and left. Sad, sad, sad. Didn't Buddha eat that meal? He did. He say Sīha served and satisfied the sangha headed by the Buddha. So didn't Buddha eat meat that day? He did, because Buddha was not vegetarian. Powerful suttas to understand the life of the Buddha, the path, the true precepts, what is important in life. They realized all these things. So Sīha, General Sīha was very fortunate. With his very first meeting, he became a Sotapanna disciple.